All right, so this is an interesting kind of thing because I wanted to make a video talking about mood and stagnation and energy, and also moving your mood and your energetic set point from one space to another by disconnecting or reconnecting to things that bring you a sense of wonder or awe. And for me, one of the best ways to do that is through music. And I'll listen to music and I'll sing music and I'll experience music. And it may even take a minute, like, 'cause it's almost like you sometimes you can get put into a space where it's like so flat that it takes a minute for you to really be able to recall the feelings in yourself, and to like really pull them back to yourself and experience them again. And a lot of times also what happens is that experience happens like in waves through days. So it's like some days you'll have like a really easy time connecting to really like euphoric, happy experiences, and then some days you'll have this like really like it's going to take a lot more like effort in order to push yourself into that space or state of being. And I want to talk about just like shifting perspective and consciousness in order to experience, you know, the finer, happier things in life, I guess. And when I say finer, I mean like not physical at all. I mean like you sit in this space of happiness and you push everything aside in order to allow yourself to feel happiness, almost as a spiritual practice. And one thing that I do is I like to cry. So I'll do something that makes me feel cry, like it'll make me cry with gratitude. And one thing that's been helping me a lot with that is like connecting with the angels and the light entities and things like that. But I also have a story about a past life regression that I had the other day, and that was pretty insane. Honestly, it was very powerful. And it was while I was walking. It was weird. It was like I basically like it was almost as if I wasn't even there. I was just kind of like observing this like thing play out, I guess. But basically it's an interesting thing because your mind you have to reprogram your mind to want to experience kind of like more and more emotion and less stagnancy and less just flat feelings, because society and everything at large has taught us to kind of keep our feelings at a flat kind of meh kind of feeling, and we're trying to feel a feeling of ecstatic bliss and joy all the time through union with everything around us. And when you're around a whole bunch of people and places and things that are feeling really meh, then sometimes it takes a minute for you to be able to disconnect from that and to reconnect to the beauty and awe and the wonder of existence. We're all connected, you know, so like we're watching a bunch of reflections of ourselves that are stuck in mehness. So we're almost having to roll over those hurdles for them too, you know what I mean? Because like when you're around people, you have to energetically like separate yourself from them in order to ascend, and then you can reconnect to them in order to bring them up to your level. But you must disconnect from them in order to not allow their level to bring you down. So to disconnect, what you do is you find something that redirects your attention into a beautiful sensation, and be that anything really, like anything that makes you feel like you are complete and whole in yourself and like you don't need anything else. And your mind's going to convince you that you want to go to this or you want to go to that, or you want to use this or you want to use that in order to make yourself feel better. And you have to realize all of that stuff is still just stuff in consciousness, you know, like all this stuff that is coming up in your mind is all ego patterns and things that have been basically pulled onto you through just kind of the connection that you have with society at large. But in reality, all of this stuff is kind of stuff that's just happening in consciousness. So if we can keep that, and this is another way to redirect your attention to the positive, is to realize that like as you connect back to infinite source or infinite source consciousness, then you start to experience that kind of like ecstatic union that is there in infinite consciousness. And then the ego comes back in, and the ego is like, oh yeah, well, you know, what about this that made you feel like this, and what about that, and then blah 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 blah. Like all that is just a lie, and you just have to disconnect from that and realize that like these voices that you're hearing in your head, like very, very few of them are actually accurate or like not lying or not trying to lie to you. And I think that that's another thing that is kind of difficult for people to do sometimes, because when they listen to their voice in their head, especially being around a whole bunch of people who are asleep, that's like one of the biggest issues, I guess, is that, and it's not even really an issue, it's just that when people are trying to disconnect from negativity, it's so easy to get pulled back into the bullshit, into the matrix, into the societal kind of structures, that it really takes some effort to disconnect and to reconnect yourself to a source that is much more wondrous and beautiful. And that effort is like a mental effort to redirect your attention and not allow things to pull you into a specific headspace. And it's really interesting because like I'd say 95% of the people that I see or more, they're stuck, you know, they're stuck in their head, they're stuck in their ways, they're stuck in their kind of their storylines, and it makes it really easy for them to really drag people into their own storylines. And then the ego is going to try to basically like, the ego is going to try to experience all the storylines and try to convince you that literally any of them are true. And because the way the ego works is through identity, so it basically identifies with whatever it is focused on. So whatever the attention is focused on, the ego is like, oh, that's mine, that's me, that's who I am. So if you focus your attention on society and you start to feel the feelings of other people empathically, then what happens is that you end up connecting to their feelings, and you end up connecting to their social complex, and that a lot of times is in a very low vibration. And also even with people, like you got to be careful about like hanging around people too, because you can end up giving away more energy than you expect, and then you could end up really drained, even though you thought in the moment that you were kind of gaining energy and things like this through these practices or whatever. You wake up the next day and you feel really, really tired or drained, and that's because you've been giving up like a little bit too much energy through whatever, you know. I mean, like a lot of people are just like, interesting, there's a big thing that just fell. This is slippery. Anyways, so but that's kind of like that's a different topic, because that's really like sharing energy, and also sometimes people really may need some healing, and you know, you may just subconsciously know that and then just send them like a bunch of energy and a bunch of healing in order to help them. But you know, if you're really struggling with keeping yourself in a space that is heavily positive, it may be good to disconnect from any sources of external like information or sources of any sorts of like external stimulus, and to reconnect to something that is not plugged into the matrix. So like to reconnect with nature, or to reconnect with yourself, really. Like in like I mean, for me, music, it touches my soul. So when I hear something that is really powerful for me, it very quickly will pull me into a space where I'm able to really feel my emotions. And the more in touch, like the faster that I feel the emotions, the more that I know that I'm in touch with my heart. And the stronger that I feel them also, the more that I know that I'm in touch with my heart. And then also, it's now gotten to the point where like I can feel the touch of these light beings, and these beings that are not of this density, or they're etheric, you know. And then when I feel that touch, that almost automatically will put me into a space where I'm like really grateful and start like crying, but my heart has to be open in order for that to happen. And sometimes the heart closes off just because, you know, you're around so many people who are in a negative state of being that you just like subconsciously don't even want to pick that up. It's really interesting because, like, for me, I could be in like a stupidly euphoric state one day, and then the next day I wake up and I feel like a normal human, and then I get really kind of confused for a second, and the ego can sit there and try to convince you that, like, you know, that this is something that's not positive or whatever. But as soon as you recognize that that's just the ego and that's just like a lie that's coming to you, then you can actually like redirect your attention and then start to experience those happy feelings again, and you can start to kind of like pull those things back to you, even when you're in a little bit darker of a space. And I find that really positive too. Goodness, hold on. Just walked right into a spider web. Yeah, it's kind of muddy out right now. It's like really, really, it's been raining a lot. I'm gonna wash off my feet though. Okay. And making our way back down here. Woo! That was deep. Anyways, so, woo, shit. Okay, so basically the whole thing that I'm trying to get to in this is that it's okay to feel mundane and boring. It's okay to feel normal. It's okay to be a normal person. You know, it's okay to have feelings. It's okay to have days where you're just like bleh. You know, all that's okay. Not a big deal. You can always redirect your attention and then bring those feelings back to you. And then basically, like, the worst that you were feeling, you can actually use that as a slingshot in a way into positivity, because once you do feel even just a glimpse of those positive emotions and feelings come through, then you can give extreme gratitude, and you can feel very strong feelings of gratitude for the feelings that you feel. And then that will actually kind of multiply those feelings and allow them to stick around, because you recognize the difference in vibration and you've chosen the vibrational frequency that you want to sit in, rather than allowing the earthly body of vibrational frequency to bring you down to wherever the collective consciousness is at. So think of it as almost as a test, you know, like you're in this kind of flat state, but it's like testing you to see if you can actually pull yourself away from believing that that's who you are, and then to bring yourself back into who you know that you really are, which is this very, very high vibrational, euphoric, happy kind of like state of being, of love and light, that everybody natively sits in. And it's just dependent on how connected you are to yourself, you know. All right. I'm gonna make another video about that past life regression in a minute, but thank you guys, and I hope you have a wonderful day.